Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Horton, and the main subject of this presentation is English language learners who are Black. And I am very passionate about this topic because I have three boys that are Black and also they are English language learners. So it's very important for me to explore this word, trying to understand them and come up with solutions how we can help these students, and I know I will also help in my children's. In this presentation I'm gonna discuss some social political factors that affect Black English language learners, some ideologies behind, and some emancipatory discourses. I would refer to this student as a belt. Before I start my presentation, I encourage you to have a lens to see it from a human race perspective, how we can be different, but at the end of the day, we are the same color. So these two pictures just represent this concept. Bella students are under the umbrella of English language learners. There is a small group, but actually it's a growing population on the United States. Um, Data from Civil Rights report that 3.9% of the English language learners in the nations are Black. And also, these students qualify for free lunch that can tell us a lot about their social economical status. According to the civil rights data, Black students comprise more than a fifth of English language learners' enrollment. That is what is important to identify the social political context of these students. And also, it's important to identify the system of power and the position that this is the underprivileged position that these students have in society. The data also show that nationwide, California and Texas have the highest percentage of English language learner students. However, for California, the Spanish is not the most spoken language, um, is compared to Texas, who have the highest Spanish speaker with 89.82%, while California have 82.9%. Black English language learners suffer intersectional racism. This is in the broad context of continuous institutional racism. The purpose of the school for this student that has been historically oppressed is only the assimilation of the white imperial project. It's a cultural and a linguistic assault. Now, these students they live in a Trump era. What does represent? So, with the Trump era, is a lot of issues arise. Um, a corporate market driving agenda, tactics alliance for education, um, something that we didn't have in mind or we didn't count on that pandemic that has been raised another issues that also affect these Bell students, this Bell population. We have a digital device. It was before COVID and after. With just COVID, make it exacerbate this inequality. The unemployment rate, the students or families, this student loves their Medicaid. We see police brutality, the death of George Floyd, the terrible death of George Floyd, many protests. So these bells are living all these contests. Um, it is just framed by fear from the police, to do their job. The police are afraid. Nobody's winning in this situation because police is afraid. The society is afraid. So they don't want to do their job because they don't want to commit or they don't want to get in trouble. People is afraid of the police. Is a lot of fear around. Immigrants are fears of do anything that can jeopardize their staying in the United States. They don't want to be deported. So this is all what these families and these students live every day with fear or something. So it's a lot of bigotry, the speech, the contest that this administration have set, and there is a lot of division between being um, Trump supporter or no Trump supporter. Where it just we for an example we have where the example of wearing masks that has been something like a represent being with supported of Trump or no, when it's something that has to do with public health. So, but this is what the administration have put on the table: the division, the homophobic, misogyny. All these contests is what our black English language learners are living every day. Um, they are worried. I work with these students and I can see the concern about how this is going to affect them and how that is going to affect their families as well. During COVID 19, Bells were forced to do adult activities such as going to work to replace incomes and help families, babysitting siblings or elderlies. They were abruptly disconnected from school. They were facing emotional stress. So these students live with fear of immigration enforcement policies, deportation, police reform. All these contests of this administration have brought affect English language learner, affect their enrollment. So I can decide that the enrollment for English language learners got grow up, but we don't know how this is gonna affect after this administration with these catastrophic immigration policies. Um, so we can see how the Deferred Action for Children Arrivals, DACA initiative, was stopped in 2008, and it was a lot of controversial to bring these policies back on place. Adult students were not able to go to work because they didn't have the permit. So all this affect all these students in negative ways, and this is what you just this administration have brought. The dreamers are being affected too, and is their families, but also is themselves. How this is gonna make a performance society. After discussing the context of these Black English language learners are living, um, I think it's important to think about the discourse that this administration had brought to the table. We can start with the phrase "Make America Great Again," MAGA. What this really mean? There is a pragmatic, a deep meaning, and it's very racist, and it's a code language. Um, because American have never been great for people of color. Always historically we has been, oh well, I say we because I am black, but there is the people of color have been oppressed. And if you we want to say what America was great again when black were slave, when blacks and women couldn't uh, vote, when we couldn't share the same spaces than white people, that black people of color was segregated. Um, that was what we call make America great again. So there is a deep meaning behind this phrase that the the current administration use it to make to create a sense of patriotism, a false sense of patriotism. So it's important to analyze also what is behind of that word and how this word is viewed for Black English language learners. I also want to talk about the ideologies that are shaping the English language learners' education. Um, we see a lot of neoliberalist ideologies. It's as neoliberalism is a system that have supported inequalities and have neglected important structure of the society, like education. So this free market make education, public schools, urban schools, um, go on the performance because the government, these systems focus their attention in a free market and the best bid, so that they underseen these other um, systems that should be taken care of. Also, we see classism, um, how middle class um, is is the standard to follow, um, how the rich corporation, the bigger corporation, the richer get richer, and all these classes it's covered or is brought in all the educational system. So we can see that the zip code, how population with a different zip codes perform, how population that live in a different zip code perform are totally different, and there is a gap between the performance of these students. Also, white supremacists, they is dangerous. It has been there, it's undercover, but with this new administration, or with this administration, has been have the courage to come up, to get undercover and show up and say what they want to say, to do what they want to do, because they feel support by the main entity that this country has. Um, and the capitalism is related to neoliberalism, is the free market that I just discussed about. So the most important idea of this is how this country, we see as a monolithic, where English is the main language, and the other language is seen as a stigma. Um, the the able-bodied superiority, and this is a very interesting word which I gonna uh, define in the next slide. The cis heteropatriarchal ideology. So all this is only affecting vulnerable populations. So, and this is all the context that our bells are living. The patriarchal is a sociopolitical system where cisgender males and heterosexual have authority over cisgender females and over other sexual orientation and gender identities. It is a term that emphasizes that discrimination, so pretty much upon women's and LGBTQ people have the same sexist social principle. Also, it's important to discuss how the policies affect bills. Um, the political project of whiteness that is oppressive provide restrictive policies that are passed with the intent to eliminate the progress of community of color. That's a powerful statement made by Paris Online 2017. Um, but all the data is showing that the how true is this. Our current administration have made many intents to pass laws that affect only vulnerable population, in this case, the Bells. Um, for example, we have the Every Student Succeed Act, ESA. This replaced the No Child Left Behind Act in 2001. Um, the Title III of the Elementary and Secondary Education is providing the funding is provided proportional to enrollment, and this accountability requires standards, and these standards schools, in order to meet the standard, can miss identify the student. So we can see data show how only state meet their state labeled Title III performing goals, or annual measurement achievement objectives, amounts. Um, that is important to see how these policies and the rush for the states to meet with these policies in order to get funding affecting really the students. These students are misidentified. They are diagnosed with learning disabilities that they later on is going to bring more problems. And also they are placed in programs that lower the expectation, and they don't have the proper support. So it's very important to place the students in the right program. So it's imperative. There is a need to evaluate the criteria for placement on these programs. Um, the number of, for example, the number of the students that are placed in gifted talent programs represent a gap. There is a disproportion between black and, and white and even Hispanic. As data shows, the 18.1% of the Spanish population are placed in this program, and 8.5% of the students are placed in gifted program. 80.5% of the black students are placed on this program, while white have 58. That's a huge difference. Even Hispanic and black together don't make it to the white. So what is that the white people, white students might are placed in the gifted program? What happened with the uh, uh, black student, with the Spanish student, or the black Spanish students, where they are placed? They are placed in other kind of programs that no meet their needs. Uh, I was reading an article from the Iowa Department of Education, and there was an interesting investigation they did about how the characteristics uh, for English language learner gifted students, and they proposed certain characteristics that are easy to meet for Spanish kids to become placed in these programs, and I think it's very fair for them to have that opportunity. So it's very interesting how states classify their students in this kind of program. But data show that it's always not in favor of blacks or Hispanic or Alaska or Asian. So it's always why students placed in this program. It's also important to discuss that bells are affected linguistically. We can see how only 12 states, including border states, except Arizona, have this type of assessment. NLA, Native Language Assessment. Arizona have a different concept. They think English as a valuable language is the concept of linguistic supremacy. Um, Also, this implicant money for the government. So it's something that they are not willing to spend in some population that they should valorate. So which is English language learners. So is have money implications. Is something that they are not gonna put effort on it to provide this kind of assignment for the students. Well, police reform also affect these students deeply. Is Black students in the United States are subject to disciplinary action at rates much higher than their white counterparts. According to the civil rights data collection, 39% of Black experience out of the school suspensions compared to um, white students, which is 32%. Also, Black students are more likely to be seen as a problematic and more likely to be punished more than the white student um, for the same offense. So, um, Bells have higher risk for adverse life outcomes, including involvement in criminal justice systems. Considering the social political context that these Black English language learners live, it's imperative that as educators, we move from pedagogies that perpetuate injustice and move from the white gaze. Um, Paris and Lynn, they describe pedagogy, cultural sustained pedagogy that seek to liberate this student from the panoptic white gaze. Um, it also looking for to perpetuate and foster sustained linguistic, literature, and cultural pluralism of schooling. It's a social transformation. Um, it's important that as educators we have an emancipatory vision of schooling and confront it with the racial discrimination context of our education. We have to revocate ableist, racist, transmisogynist, homophobic, patriarchal, and xenophobic discourses. We have to wear this progressive and emancipatory lens of the cultural sustained pedagogy. We have to use the experience, the cultural knowledge, and the language as a base for learning for this student. We have to give them value to that. And they bring a lot to the table. We also have to work in the reconstruction of the notion of personal self-change with this student. We need to help them to free themselves from structures that dominate them and constrain them, the critical analyzing, resisting, and challenging the structure of power. In this case, the government. We have to mobilize them. We have to make them be a thinker. Um, they have to be critical thinker. We need to teach them how to where to get the information and how to use it in the best. We need to teach these students how to take control of their life. We have to um, help them to to practice reflection and critique. Um, we have to help them to discover and to transform knowledge in favor of others for betterment. That's the only way that we can become um, cultural responsive or cultural sustained uh, pedagogy. We can have a cultural sustained pedagogy. We have to teach this student to take action and reflect, to break structural powers that oppress them. We need to emancipate them, to empower them from these conditions. Um, and they will be able to see a school as a site for diversity where is celebrated, sustained. I will finish with a phrase, 1970. phrase, freedom from oppression can only take place through theory and practice. So this is this is very encouraged to as educators to put a lens that most help our students, especially these students that come from vulnerable population. In this case, my bells, how I call them, my bells, Black English learners. So we have to empower them. We have to emancipate them from the structure of power that have been doing it historically and continue doing through policies, through discourses, to all these socio-political contexts that these students live, social media. We have to be agent of change. We have to mobilize our students to fight against inequalities. Um, I will let you next with the a video. It's related, but it is very interesting. The first time I saw it, I read. So I want to share with you guys. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation. To conclude, Bells are population that is growing. They suffer intersectionality, and there is so many sociopolitical factors that affect them. We have two major events, which is the Trump era and the COVID-19. All the devastating ideologies such as neoliberalism, white supremacy, classism, the monolithical idea, the homogeneous idea of one follow to the middle class, the body, the able body superiority, the system of patriarchal, and remember some of these students, like I say, they suffer intersectionality. Some of these students have different sexual orientation, and that is another way that is another form that they receive this intersectionality. Um, all these discourses may behind like make America great again. All these discourses affect impact these student, um, because all these hurtful ideologies coming behind, it's important that as a teacher, as an educator, we adopt an emancipatory lens. It is necessary for us to help these students. How I say is, for me, is very personal because I have three of these students in my home, and I want to see the future in a way that I have hope, and for me it's important, it's required as a teacher to take care of these students, don't suffer these intersectionalities, and develop in a different socio-political context. So it's very imperative that we change this condition for these students. Estas son las referencias where I have been taking this information. Muchas gracias.